Chapter 26. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the first day of the month, that the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, because that Tyrus hath said against Jerusalem, Aha, she is broken, that was the gates of the people. She is turned unto me, I shall be replenished, now she is laid waste. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Tyrus, and will cause many nations to come up against thee, as the sea causeth his waves to come up. And they shall destroy the walls of Tyrus, and break down her towers. I will also scrape her dust from her, and make her like the top of a rock. It shall be a place for the spreading of nets in the midst of the sea, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord God. And it shall become a spoil to the nations. And her daughters which are in the field shall be slain by the sword, and they shall not know, and they shall know that I am the Lord. For thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will bring upon Tyrus Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, a king of kings from the north, with horses and with chariots and with horsemen and companies and much people. He shall slay with the sword thy daughters in the field, and he shall make a fort against thee, and cast a mount against thee, and lift up the buckler against thee, and he shall set engines of war against thy walls, and with his axes he shall break down thy towers. By reason of the abundance of his horses their dust shall cover thee. Thy walls shall shake at the noise of the horsemen, and of the wheels, and of the chariots. And when he shall enter into thy gates, as men enter into a city wherein is made a breach. With the hoofs of his horses shall he tread down all thy streets. He shall slay thy people with the sword, and thy strong garrison shall go down to the ground. And they shall make a spoil of thy riches, and make a prey of thy merchandise. And they shall break down thy walls, and destroy thy pleasant houses, and they shall lay thy stones and thy timber and thy dust in the midst of the water. And I will cause the noise of thy songs to cease, and the sound of thy harp shall be no more heard. And I will make thee like the top of a rock. Thou shalt be a place to spread nets upon. Thou shalt be built no more, for I the Lord have spoken it, saith the Lord God. Thus saith the Lord God to Tyrus, Shall not the isles shake at the sound of thy fall? When the wounded cry, when the slaughter is made in the midst of thee? Then all the princes of the sea shall come down from their thrones, and lay away their robes, and put off their broidered garments. They shall clothe themselves with trembling. They shall sit on the ground, and shall tremble at every moment, and be astonished at thee. And they shall take up a lamentation for me, and say to thee, How art thou destroyed, that wast inhabited of seafaring men? The renowned city, which was strong in the sea, she and her inhabitants, which caused their terror to be on all that haunt it. Now shall the isles tremble in the day of thy fall. Yea, the isles that are in the sea shall be troubled at thy departure. For thus saith the Lord God, When I shall make thee a desolate city, like the cities that are not inhabited, when I shall bring up the deep upon thee, and great waters shall cover thee, when I shall bring thee down with them that descend into the pit, and with the people of old time, and shall set thee in the low parts of the earth, in places desolate of old, with them that go down to the pit, that thou be not inhabited, and I shall set glory in the land of the living. I will make thee a terror, and thou shalt be no more, though thou be sought for, yet shalt thou never be found again, saith the Lord God. This chapter includes what has become a very remarkable prophecy by Ezekiel from the Lord about the city of Tyre. Now in this chapter it's referred to as Tyrus, but it is Tyre, and Tyre is a city-state. Tyre and Sidon, S-I-D-O-N, or Z-I-D-O-N in the scriptures usually, are two cities along the furthest east coast of the Mediterranean Sea. So Tyre itself is about 100 miles northwest of Jerusalem, right on the Mediterranean coast, and Sidon is some miles north of that, not that really very far, maybe 20 miles if I remember correctly. They had huge ports, and they were the seafaring trading powers. They traded all the grain from Egypt to all the ports all around the entire Mediterranean Sea. They were very rich, had merchants that were absolutely incredibly wealthy. Sidon was on the mainland. Tyre was a city that was partly on the mainland, and a half a mile off of the mainland there was an island, a fortress island with walls estimated at 150 feet tall, to defend itself with. And for some reason, which I don't personally know, there was a problem with Tyre trying to take advantage of Israel and Judah and Jerusalem. In some way, shape, or form, I'm not sure. But the Lord knew. And he pronounced these problems, that he was going to bring these problems on to Tyre. And he announced that he was going to bring people, nations, against them like waves of the sea, one after the other. And he outlined as an example that he would bring Nebuchadnezzar against Tyre. Now, at the time that Ezekiel gave that promise that would happen, that was no big deal, because Nebuchadnezzar was hitting everybody. And he did, eventually came up after Ezekiel, I think, had died, about 30 years after the prophecy, I think. Nebuchadnezzar came up and set siege to Tyre and conquered the land part after a 13-year siege. That's how strong the walls were. That's how well they were supplied. Never did get the island part. And then about 200 years later, and it talks about making it bare as a rock, and nets will be dried on it, and all the rest of its stuff. About 200 years later, from the north came down Alexander the Great. And he laid siege to the land, what was left of the land part, and after 7 months he had that. And then he wanted to get the island part, and couldn't do it. The half a mile of sea between him and there. The tide's coming in, tide's going out. You can't have an army with a tide coming in, going out on the mud flats. It didn't work. And so he built a 200-foot wide road, gravel road, from the land out to the island. Eventually took it. 8,000 people, as I remember, were captured and killed. 2,000 people were crucified on the shore, and 30,000 were sold into slavery. And they destroyed the walls, they destroyed the castles, they destroyed the palaces as best as they could, and the place was used to dry nets, fishermen, all the rest of it. It's now a population of a couple 100,000 people, I guess. It's a peninsula now. But it was pretty remarkable that it happened. The Lord's prophecy came true. At the time, nobody would have thought. And it wasn't until Alexander actually deployed 224 ships to block the harbors of the island that he was actually able to get the causeway, the road, built up to the island so his troops could get there. And they were so busy fighting the ships that were trying to invade that they lost the war. The people from Tyre lost the war because they couldn't handle both the invasion from the land and invasion from the sea. The Lord remembers what he says he's going to do, and he does it.